Hi, guys. Welcome to another exciting episode of Éire's Epics in History. I'm your host, John Fisher. Forgive the glare. Not sure why there's a glare, but, there is, and I have nowhere else to shoot tonight. So, apologies that this video is going to be out there a bit late. Kind of a busy day for me, but I am sticking to my word in making a video per day. So, we have a lot to cover, so we're just gonna dive right in. Now we left off yesterday with the famine and the effects it had on Ireland, as well as the Irish who emigrated to escape the famine to places in Britain, America, and Canada. Now, despite the effects of the famine, we do start to see some positive changes around the end of the 1800s. For instance, in 1893, we see the establishment of the Gaelic League, which is dedicated to teaching the Gaelic language because the number of native Irish speakers has decreased over the decades significantly. We also see a revival in Anglo-Irish literature. For instance, you have William Butler Yeats, who goes on to win the Nobel Prize in 1923, and these revivals help to reinvigorate the spirit of nationalism in Ireland, which the famine had unfortunately deterred very much and hindered. So, we also see some other positive changes, like in 1896, we see the labor movement start up in Ireland. We also see around 1898 the passage of the Local Government Act, which ended the dominance that landlords had over local affairs. It established city councils, did away with the old grand jury. So there's a lot of progress being made. We do see the revival of the Orange Order up in Ulster as well, but we also see the establishment of the reformation of a significant organization known as the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Now, it had originally been started in 1858 by a group called the Fenians, who were dedicated to using armed revolution against the British. Unfortunately, their cause was not very successful, and as a result, the organization, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, died out. But around November of 1913, we see it reestablished along with the Irish Volunteers. Now, the Irish Volunteers was a military organization that was dedicated to protecting the rights of the Irish as a whole country. And they were formed in response to another organization, the name of which is escaping me at the moment. But, oh yes, it was the Ulster Volunteers. And the Ulster Volunteers were dedicated to protecting unionism, because this is at this time, there is a push and movement to establish home rule in Ireland, which would have once again introduced an Irish parliament. And the issue of home rule goes back to the 1870s when the campaign for home rule first began, and there actually was eventually around 1914 a bill proposing home rule was passed in Parliament, but the start of World War I actually ends up postponing this, which has a significant impact on Ireland and the course it ends up taking in the next few years in terms of its politics and its structure. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. But going back to the Irish Republican Brotherhood, so with the launch of World War One, they see this as an opportunity for the Irish because the English are now distracted by the war with Germany. And a number of its members actually end up planning a rising that becomes known as the Easter Rising or Easter Rebellion. It takes place in during the week of Easter of 1916. And basically, the idea was to declare themselves a new government for Ireland. And many of the members of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, who are also members of the Irish Volunteers, they felt that if they went ahead with this rising, it would motivate people in Dublin as well as throughout the country to join their cause right then and there. It didn't end up going exactly that way. For one, it was originally planned. A military council was formed in 1915 with this proposal to plan this rising. Now, around this time, they even sent people overseas for support. They sent people to America to garner support. They sent people to Germany to garner support. They actually tried to work with the Germans to bring arms into Ireland from Germany. But basically, it was originally supposed to take place on Easter Sunday, but that didn't end up happening because of a number of issues. There was actually, for one, the president of the Irish Republican Brotherhood had no idea about this planned rising until a few days before it happened, and he actually tried to halt it, which ended up causing a lot of people who were originally going to travel for the rising to not travel at all, which dwindled the resources, which dwindled the manpower that the organization had when the rising did occur. And also, there was a German U-boat that was supposed to be delivering arms, but it actually got captured when it arrived in Ireland. So the rising didn't go ahead on Easter Sunday. It was actually postponed, but it ended up taking place on Easter Monday, so the day after, which was a bank holiday. And the Irish Republican Brotherhood thought, oh, okay, it'll be very quiet. And members of the IRB ended up taking strategic positions throughout the city and fortifying them to defend against the British. And Patrick Henry Pierce, who was one of the leaders of this organization, he ends up reading what is known as the Proclamation of the Provisional Government of the Irish Republic out loud in front of the whole city in Dublin. He ends up standing in front of the General Post Office and just reading this aloud and basically declaring, and that's what launches the rising. That's what launches the military action against the British. But it actually backfires. Well, it works and it doesn't work. From a military point of view, it was considered a failure because they ended up having 2,000 people as part of the rising, but the British, when they figure out what's going on, they end up declaring martial law, deploying the Irish army, which surrounds these people. The main targets for the rebels was Dublin Castle, and which was the heart of English rule in Ireland, as well as in Crown Alley, the telephone exchange, and they don't succeed at capturing either of them. And basically, the British actually launch U-boats in the River Liffey, which end up firing shots, and they end up destroying the Dublin city centre. And about 500 people, most of which were non-military average civilians, were killed. Now, the rising lasts for about 6 days, and at the end of it, Patrick Henry Pierce, yes, the IRB does lose, and Patrick Henry Pierce does sign a surrender document with the British at 3:45 p.m. on April 29th, 1916. So it started April 24th and went all the way to April 29th. Between May 3rd and May 12th, martial law is in place by the British, and about 15 15 or 16 leaders are executed. And of the 3,400 people that were arrested during the rising, half of them are sent to England and Wales, where they're interned or imprisoned. And this, even though it was a military failure, it actually was a success nationally, in that it really resonated with the people of Ireland. And due to the violence, due to the destruction of the Dublin city centre and the executions of these people, of these leaders, it causes the Irish to embrace this nationalist cause, republicanism, which early on many had viewed with skepticism, or they had viewed with hostility and apathy, because they were scared of going up against Great Britain, and they were scared of losing any benefits they had through their ties with Great Britain. But now they really become just so enamored with it based on this event. And this is what leads up to the Irish War of Independence later on, and the eventual creation of the Irish Free State, which later on becomes the Republic of Ireland. But we'll get more into that in future videos. So basically, this has the events of the Easter Uprising, as well as the revivals of all these core Irish elements and core Irish traditions and groups that are here to protect these Irish traditions. They really help formulate the nationalistic pride that is still seen today in Ireland, as well as the spirit and motivation that led the people to eventually stand up to Great Britain and gain their independence. But again, we're going to go more into that in future videos. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I very much appreciate it. If you have any comments, please leave them below this video. I'm going to post it on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Yes, and please share this, because this is a very important event in Irish history that should be shared, to really teach people about why Ireland is the way it is today, what led to it being the strong independent country that it is. So, thank you again, and until next time.